Hi, folks. Another quick thinking out loud piece here, thinking on the little bit more on some of the themes, or one of the themes in particular from the market assessment for the state of AI and digital learning released last week. I'll link to that in the comments below. I'm just thinking about, well, what's going to sustain differentiation in digital learning beyond AI adoption, because I don't think AI adoption is going to create that sustainable differentiation. So we've seen, across these sort of five, I suppose, families of businesses in the digital learning market. We've seen adoption of AI, certainly on roadmaps, although much less live. That 11% of capabilities live versus on roadmap, is quite a low bar at the moment. But we've seen, the widespread adoption of the similar, if not the same, technologies across these services. So, perhaps most clearly and obviously, we've seen this focus on off-the-shelf services, adopting generative AI foundational technologies. Similarly, in program design and delivery, both of those mainly in terms of design and development of content. Technology services, perhaps a little bit more specialised in terms of the use of the tools. But again, even in those where you have solution platforms, perhaps for scenarios, simulations, adaptive, etc., where a lot of the focus is on the efficiency of the design and development of content as part of the solution. So efficiency seems to be the name of the game at the moment. But everybody's using the same technologies to do many similar things. Sort of headline for some of those that we've put in our mainstream and next wave segmentation. So those, the most common, both in terms of being presence on roadmaps, so roadmap consensus, but also those that are most likely to be live. And you can see that breakdown in the report. So we've got search and discovery of content being one very, very helpful use. Curation, automation of curation steps being another. The use of AI in the automation of workflows to create content is a clear efficiency benefit. Similarly, increasingly for authoring and design of the solutions into which that content is injected as well. So, I think we're seeing reasonable signs that they know that uptake will spread and it will become much more mainstream in the future. And then the adoption of AI assistance is widespread, if not everywhere. Everyone seems to have, or if not be imminently releasing some kind of AI assistant, whether that's an assistant for those content and authoring and design capabilities, sort of in the workflows or as part of the learning experience, indeed then into kind of coaching functionality and AI coaching for rehearsal and feedback of skills, etc., which is more, I guess, sort of the more value on the learning experience side, rather than just the efficiency. Although I think you could argue that is about sort of making coaching efficient in a way that the market hasn't been able to do before. Anyway, so we've seen similar, if not the same technologies being used for very similar ends. So we're not seeing at the moment much signs of differentiation in the market. I think everybody's sort of chasing to adopt an AI and to make it available to customers. Customers are are starting to take it up, perhaps not as much as sort of market commentary might suggest at this stage, although it's picking up quickly. But differentiation is probably not going to come from technology alone, which sort of leads to the question of, well, where will it come from? And I think it's interesting. I don't think we've seen much differentiation in terms of pricing at the moment. I think perhaps sort of greater volume and greater choice from greater efficiency in production. I think that's having an impact on pricing, but there's not necessarily a differential advantage there, I think, in terms of pricing. I think quality and service, I think, are differentiators. They're not differentiators powered by AI, though. So I think they're not really, a technology differentiation there. I think quality, is a tricky and nebulous concept for digital learning and for our market. Is that about, sort of the judgment of quality as an input? Is it about the impact and value of, of the consequences of the output? We don't have very many standardized measures and methods for that. So quality will continue to be, sort of an important differentiator, but I don't think will necessarily become less nebulous quickly, although I think handling greater sort of data sources of impact through AI will be helpful there. Service is definitely still a differentiator, but not technology enabled. That's about sort of problem solving, about design, and about service management and account management, customer success, etc. And still, the best businesses have the greatest service. AI is a helper there, but it doesn't really transform that. Efficiency is going to be a massive driver, and will continue to be, but possibly harder to differentiate on efficiency. It's going to become a baseline expectation of greater output at lower cost and more quickly. The sort of expectations there are changing. I think data needs to be a differentiator, but we have a sort of some pretty shaky foundations in L&D there, I think, by and large. So I think data will emerge as part of a differentiator, perhaps, in terms of powering differences in quality and service. And innovation, I think, will continue to be important. But again, it's harder to see that being a real differentiator when everybody's using very similar technologies in similar ways. So I don't think we've seen much sustainable differentiation as yet. I think we'll perhaps see over the next 12 to 18 months as some of these features and functionality shake out. We see what the mainstream and the next wave look like, and we see what those edge advantage features become. But at the moment, it's very hard to see sustainable differentiation because of technology alone, which puts us in an interesting position. So anyway, I'd like to know what you think. Are you seeing significant difference in the providers you use, or do you think you can claim that, if you are a service provider? Let me know what you think, and I'm keen to keep the conversation going.